Alright, we are on part 1 million. Just kidding, we're not. We're on like part 40 something, but it feels like this book is taking forever. I really want to move on to another book already, but start what I finished. So, this is Manetho of the Shepherd Kings. We had formerly a king whose name was Timaeus. In his time it came to pass, I know not how, that God was displeased with us. And there came from the east in a strange manner men of ignoble race, who had the confidence to invade our country, and easily subdued it by their power without a battle. And when they had our rulers in their hands, they burnt our cities and demolished the temples of the gods, and inflicted every kind of barbarity upon the inhabitants, slaying some and reducing the wives and children of others to a state of slavery. At length they made one of themselves king, whose name was Salashes. He lived at Memphis and rendered both upper and lower regions of Egypt tributary, and stationed garrisons in places which were best adapted for that purpose. But he directed his attention principally to the security of the eastern frontier, for he regarded with suspicion the increasing power of the Assyrians, who he foresaw one day would undertake the invasion of the kingdom, and observing in the society known upon the east of the Bubastite Channel, a city which from some ancient theological reference was called Avaris, and finding it admirably adapted to his purpose, he rebuilt it, and strongly fortified it with walls, and garrisoned it with a force of 250,000 men completely armed. To this city Salashes repaired in summertime to collect his tribute and pay his troops, and to exercise his soldiers in order to strike terror in their foreigners. And Salashes died after a reign of 19 years. After him reigned another king, who was called Baon, 44 years, and he was succeeded by Apashnas, who reigned 36 years and 7 months. After him reigned Apophis 61 years, and Ianias 50 years and 1 month. After all these reigned Assis 49 years and 2 months. These 6 were the first rulers amongst them, and during the whole period of their dynasty they made war upon the Egyptians with the hope of exterminating the whole race. All this nation was styled Hyksos, that is, the shepherd kings, for the first syllable, Hik, in the sacred dialect, denotes a king, and Sos signifies a shepherd, but this only according to the vulgar tongue. This only according to the vulgar tongue. And of these is compounded the term Hyksos. Some say they were Arabians. This people, who were thus denominated shepherd kings, and their descendants retained possession of Egypt during the period of 511 years. Okay, so there's some more lore on the shepherd kings. To say that they're the Arabians, I really wonder what that means. Like, the only place I can think of is maybe like Damascus and Jerusalem and all those lands and stuff like that. But to even say that would be saying that like those are like really recent. Well, you know what? Actually, let's try to like look this up and get some kind of perspective on this. This is what I'm gonna ask it. So, what period did the Hyksos rule Egypt, and what year was said that Abraham had ventured to, or I don't know, what would I call it, had been, that Abraham went to Damascus. And then that'll give me an idea. They are a different time. Can you say what the other nation was doing. It's gonna start maybe trying to like correct me on what I'm trying to phrase, but I don't know. Maybe I gotta train this thing to like not be so wordy. Okay. The period of the Hyksos ruled from looks like 16. This. Okay, so it's just as a core period of the 15th dynasty was 100 years, and they ruled from their capital of Vars in the Nile Delta and Lower Egypt. But they ruled both Upper and Lower Egypt with their expulsion by native Egyptian rulers. Okay, so that's lining up with what this Manetho's saying. And then see what time was. Okay, so 2000 BC to 1850 BC is when that type of, I guess, biblical time frame would have occurred for Abraham traveling to Damascus, which would have been that area which would probably, I think personally, would be the best place these Hyksos would have came from. I think they mentioned in one of these books, one of these kings lists in this book, they noted the king that ruled, or not the king, but like the Greek dynasty, right? So just putting that into perspective, I mean, they kind of like, you know, explicitly state there's Greece or Greek rulers, and then there's the Phoenician rulers, but it could be Arabians, but you know, honestly, it probably could have been Arabians and not any of like the bloodlines of Abraham, because that's what I was kind of going forward with this. But let's see, during Abraham's times, the powerful Middle Kingdom, Okay, so during the Hyksos rule, which was looks like maybe 300-400 years after, Abraham was already a figure of the distant past. Okay, so what? The Near East was going to political restructuring following the power shifts of the. Okay, so it doesn't say who ruled or like what was going on. What was the land of Damascus? Okay, let me actually, to whom was the land of Damascus under suzerainty? Suzerainty, maybe that's a good way to put it. How do you spell that word? Suzerainty? I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong. But suzerainty, there we go. Let's see here. Okay, so during this time, Egypt was already a new kingdom, whatever, that's all the Hyksos. Okay, so, it doesn't, why do they have to be so wordy? This is the problem. The suzerain of the land of Damascus was the pharaoh of Egypt, specifically the ruler of the 18th dynasty. The local city-state of Damascus was... Okay, I completely screwed up on what I was trying to ask it. Darn it. What a waste of time. It just... It's saying here that, like, during the time... So, okay, so during the time of the Hyksos, the state of Damascus and that region was... what was it? Damascus, and that region was under Egyptian tributary. Like, is that what it's saying? And be less wordy. There we go. I think that might be a little better. Okay. So it says no Damascus. Okay, so it just got completely confused on what I was asking. Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, who? I'm just gonna say who was ruling in Damascus at the time the Hyksos. It says the Assyrians. I mean, this old book says the Assyrians, but I just want to be clear on it. It was just an independent state. Yeah, it doesn't say. It's just Canaanite city-states. It's interesting. Dang. Alright, well, there's nothing to say other than they were just small city-states during those periods. Really no peculiar thing that I want. I mean, I guess I could put the pro version on, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up actually myself later because I kind of want to know. Okay, let's see here. I think we read all this, right? Yeah. After these things, he relates that the kings of Thebais and of the other provinces of Egypt made an insurrection against the shepherds, and that a long and mighty war was carried on between them, till the shepherds, overcome by a king whose name was Fragments, and they were by him driven out of the other parts of Egypt, and hemmed up in a place containing about 10,000 acres, which was called Avaris. So this is all Lower Egypt. All this tract, says Manetho, the shepherds surrounded with a vast and strong wall, that they might retain all their property and their prey within a hold of strength. Well, I guess that's not a good idea. Dang. Man, to live in those time periods must have sucked. And Thutmosis, the son of Alisfragmothosis, endeavored to force them by a siege, and beleaguered the place with a body of 480,000 men. But at the moment he despaired of reducing them by siege, they agreed to a capitulation, that they would leave Egypt and should be permitted to go without molestation wherever so they pleased. And according to this stipulation, they departed from Egypt with all their families and effects, and numbered not less than 240,000, and bent their way through the deserts towards Syria. But as they stood in fear of the Assyrians, who had then dominion over Asia, they built a city in that country which is now called Judea, of sufficient size and to contain this multitude of men, and name it Jerusalem. No, what is this book saying? What the hell? Manetho really said this? I don't. Hold on. This is not. What that? And according to this stipulation, they departed from Egypt with all their families and effects, in number not less than 240,000, and bent their way through the desert towards Syria. But as they stood in fear of the Assyrians, who had then dominion over Asia, they built a city in that country which is now called Judea. So this book is saying like it was during Moses, but that doesn't. Okay, well that happened. So this happened before the Trojan War, but there was a chronicle that stated that there was other shepherd kings ruling earlier. I don't know if this is. This might be misconstrued. I'll say the least on this. I definitely would take this with a grain of salt. I mean, you can say with Moses and all that stuff, but this is kind of obscure. I think this might. I don't know. I think the older kings list was actually more accurate in saying that there were like shepherd kings before like the Exodus. I think that actually makes a lot more sense to just say that the shepherd kings were the people who were like Moses and they got kicked out. Although, I mean, it does seem plausible. I don't really know. Because I mean, what I'm saying here is that, like, there's these shepherd kings, which are the Hyksos, but this book, what Manetho is saying is that, like, the Hyksos were, like, the people of the Exodus, which I think that there were people, like, before, like, that were Phoenician that don't have anything to do with the Exodus. And I don't think. Let me see. Oh, man, dude, this is like really. I really do have to look up this stuff all the time. I wish I could just like know this stuff at the back of my head. I only know like general time periods. I'm not too good with like denoting kings and what particular, because this, I mean, to say how a city was founded is kind of like a bit of a stretch, and it could be like four, what is it called? A fib of some, not necessarily a fib, but just kind of like an exaggeration of some sort. Darn it. I don't, like, I'm kind of stumped, honestly. Just kind of like, I want to ask the, like, AI, like, okay, how was it Jerusalem founded? But now the word Jerusalem, or like Jeru, means yarrow, or like yera, or like yara, which is like a moon. I think it's a moon god. And that's what like the name derives from. But that, I mean, that's just going off like the top of my head. That's probably not true. It could be not. But it's the same. I think it's the same name for like Jericho. So you have like yer. You have this like yer, or like yar. That's at the very front. That it refers to like a moon god, I think, which I think is shoot, is it? It's a Sumerian god. It's there's this Sumerian god that names it something after the moon. Darn it! It's like, darn it. I'm gonna have to do my research. I don't have the cards in my hand right now for this. Let's see. All right. Well, where did I stop at? Right here. I think I stopped right here. In another book of the Egyptian histories, Manetho says that this people, who are here called shepherds, in their sacred books were also styled captives. After the departure of this nation of shepherds to Jerusalem, Thutmosis, the king of Egypt, who drove them out, reigned 25 years and 4 months, and then died. After him, his son Shebron took the government into his hands for the 13 years. After him reigned Amenophis for 20 years and 7 months. Then his sister Ameses, 21 years and 9 months, who was succeeded by Mephres, who reigned 12 years and 9 months. After him, Mephramuthosis, 25 years and 10 months. Then Moses reigned 9 years and 8 months. After whom Amenophis, 30 years and 10 months. Then Horus, who is Akhenaten, 36 years and 5 months. Then his daughter Asentres, 12 years and 1 month. Afterwards her brother Rethotis, 9. Then Asencheres, 12 years and 5 months. And another Asencheres, 12 years and 3 months. After him Armais, 4 years and 1 month. After him reigned Ramesses, 1 year and 4 months. Then Armeses, the son of Miamus, 66 years and 2 months. After him Amenophis, 19 years and 6 months. and he was succeeded by Sethosus and Rameses. He maintained an army of cavalry and a naval force. Okay, so I think that might not be Sethos. That might not be like the I think he was actually like a Nubian king, right? Taharka. I think that was his other name. I think that's this person, right? But I kind of want to go back to this real quick and going back to like pinpointing what's going on. So it looks like it denotes Amenophis. I forget, where did it say? I think right. Yeah, right here, Amenophis. So we have Amenophis, who was part of the Trojan War, right? That's what one of these books said was part of the Trojan War that was going on over there. Then before that, you have Exodus. But then before Exodus, you have Theban kings, right? And then before that, you then have the shepherd kings. So it looks like it looks like the Exodus and everything that was going on maybe could have been like people who were like in Egypt that were part of the Shepherd Kings dynasty, and then like kind of like I guess like this led to like eventually like a complete exodus of that group. Well, interestingly enough, okay, so let's read here. This king Sethothus appointed his brother Armaius his viceroy over Egypt. He also invested him with all the other authority of a king, with only these restrictions: that he should not wear the diadem, nor interfere with the queen, the mother of his children, nor abuse the royal concubines. Sethothus then made an expedition against Cyprus and Phoenicia, and waged war with the Assyrians and Medes. Okay, so yeah, this was Taharka, and this was the person that was like I think mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And he subdued them all, some by force of arms, and others without a battle, by the mere terror of his power. And being elated with his success, he advanced still more confidently, and overthrew the cities and subdued the countries of the east. But Armaius, who was left in Egypt, took advantage of the opportunity and fearlessly perpetrated all those acts in which his brother had enjoined him not to commit. He violated the queen and continued an unrestrained intercourse with the royal concubines, and at the persuasion of his friends he assumed the diadem and openly opposed his brother. But the ruler over the priests of Egypt by letters sent an account to Sethothus, and informed him of what had happened and how his brother had set himself up in an opposition to his power. Upon his Sethothus immediately returned to Pelusium and recovered his kingdom. The country of Egypt took its name from Sethothus, who was called also Aegyptus, as was his brother Armaius, known by the name of Danaus. Okay, so that's from Josephus, right? It says Josephus right here. Possible. Okay, so well, this one says Manetho of the of the Israelites. It's pretty a tense time to talk about those people right now. This king Amenophis was desirous of beholding the gods, as Horus, one of his predecessors in the kingdom, had seen them. And he communicated his desire to a priest of the same name with himself. Amenophis the son of Pappus, who seemed to partake of the divine nature both in his wisdom and knowledge of futurity. And Amenophis returned him answer that it was in his power to behold the gods if he would cleanse the whole country of the lepers and other unclean persons that abounded in it. Huh. That's an interesting word to use. Well pleased with this information, the king gathered together out of Egypt all that labored under any defect in body, to the amount of 80,000, and sent them to the quarries, which are situated on the east side of the Nile, and that they might work in them and be separated from the rest of the Egyptians. Oh, that's actually a huge thing right there. The quarries. There was a bunch of mining that they were doing in the Sinai Peninsula. This book doesn't call it the Sinai, but over in that region there's an old mine, and that's where the goddess Hathor comes from, because there's turquoise and there's gold that's mined over there. I think there's also copper as well, but most of that, I think that place now is a whole protectorate between Egypt and honestly I think Israel, but there's the northern Sinai protectorate, and then there's the southern Sinai protectorate going on right now, and there's a border between that region, which is part of the Red Sea. But in any case, there's an old mine there, and that this mentions it. It kind of sparked interest in me, because and actually, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, when Enkidu sent after they slay Umbaba, and they kind of tell Gilgamesh to go home or whatever, and then they tell Enkidu that he has to go mining for the rest of his life. He's in doubt because he told Gilgamesh hey, you need to kill Umbaba, even though Umbaba was a sacred guardian of the Cedar Forest in that region. I think it was in Lebanon when they talk about the Cedar Hills. That there was this god figure, super guardian thing called Umbaba, and that Enkidu told Gilgamesh to kill it, and he wasn't supposed to, and the higher gods got mad at them, and they told Enkidu to go mine for the rest of his life, and this is the exact same mine, I think, which is they're referring to, which is the Sinai Peninsula. Really insightful thing right there. I really like this. Anyways. And he says, there were among some of them learned priests who were affected with leprosy. Isn't leprosy where your skin turns faint or something like that? What does that mean? I wonder what that means back then. Excuse me, hold on. Acid reflux. Excuse me. And Amenophis, the wise man and prophet, fearful lest the vengeance of the gods should fall both on himself and on the king, if it should appear that violence had been offered them, added this also in prophetic spirit, that certain people would come to the assistance of these unclean persons, and would subdue Egypt and hold it in possession for 13 years. These tidings, however, he dared not to communicate to the king, but left in writing an account of what should come to pass, and destroyed himself, at which the king was fearfully distressed. After which he writes thus word for word: when those that were sent to work in the quarries had continued for some time in that miserable state, the king was petitioned to set apart their habitation and protection of the city of Ars, which had been left vacant by the shepherds, and he granted them their desire. Now the city, according to theology above, is a Typhonian city. Okay. Huh. Yeah, because... Wow. Have you guys ever read Zachary Sitchin's books on Seth and like Osiris and Isis, and like where all these like kind of like legends come from, and like what they're referring to. They would say that like Typhon or Seth was always referred to outside of Egypt, and that he always ruled outside of Egypt. He was never in Egypt, and that any of his domain was never like in the Nile region. He was always like an outsider to rule. So it's I don't know where the city of Avaris is. I wonder if like it's a real city today. Let me see if I can look it up right here. Oh, Avaris, Egypt. And then I'll pull up the maps. Let's see here. Let me just zoom out real quick. So that's, yeah, see, it's like right here next to the Sinai. This right here. So yeah, let's see, there's like a line right here of their governates or governorates, and this, I don't want to look at that. That's pretty politically intense right now. But in any case, this was all like a mine for Hathor, and like this was all dedicated to Hathor, and I guess Typhon as well. But Avaris is right here with Typhon. So this must have been like, Cairo must have been like a borderlands for like the lower Egypt, and then this was probably just all like whatever, just the outer banks of like Egypt, of lower Egypt, so to speak. Alright, well, that's good. Like I said, that was that's where Enkidu was potentially sent, is into the Sinai Peninsula. Okay. I really need to finish this already. It's already like half an hour in. But when they had taken possession of the city and found it well adapted for a revolt, they appointed for themselves a ruler among the priests of Heliopolis, one whose name was Osarsif. That sounds kind of like like Nordic, the way I'm pronouncing it at least. And they bound themselves by oath that they would be obedient. Osarsif then, well, that sounds a little bit Egyptian, I guess. In the first place enacted this law, that they should neither worship the gods nor abstain from any of those sacred animals which the Egyptians hold in veneration, but sacrifice and slay them all. Wait, hold on. Let me reread that. That they should. So Osarphus, this is a person who was appointed in Heliopolis, right? Vacant by the shepherds, but when they had taken possession of the city, they found it well adapted for a revolt. They appointed themselves a ruler from among the priests of Heliopolis, one whose name was Osarsif. In the first place enacted this law, that they should neither worship the gods nor abstain from any of those sacred animals which the Egyptians hold in veneration, but sacrifice and slay them all, and that they should connect themselves with none but such as were that of that confederacy. When he had made such laws as these, and many others of a tendency directly in opposition to the customs of the Egyptians, he gave orders that they should employ a multitude of hands in rebuilding the walls about the city, and then hold themselves in readiness for war with Amenophis the king. Wait, what the? Where's this? Hold on, I gotta pull the brakes on this. What's going on? What's going on here? Okay. Hold on. You know what? I think I should reread this all. I think maybe I should tune into this again and reread all this in the next video, because this is like a lot of information, and I feel like a lot of this information is actually really critical. I think I'm gonna leave off I think I'll leave off maybe at the beginning of this, to be honest. Because if I can just, maybe I'll start right here. No, I gotta start from the top, I'll just start right here. Yeah, I'll just start from the top, so. And the next video we'll like go over all of this again and then kind of like break this whole thing down, because this is actually really interesting. Everything in here has like a lot of interesting details to it that I kind of want to like look up and research actually right after this. So yeah, we'll start again here in the next video.